Why is everyone hyping up this Haaland kid? He's just a second-rate Danny Welbeck. The quicker Liverpool lose, the better it will be for their season. Welcome back to another episode of TFW, because it's Monday afternoon, so you guys know what that means. All of your opinions were sent in, and we're going to talk about loads of them right now. Starting off with SDB about the Liverpool United game, who has said that was not a foul from Virgil. I'm tending to agree, to be honest. I know he went for the ball, he jumped into De Gea, and it would look like a foul. But the problem comes here that De Gea's not looking for the same action that Van Dijk's looking for. If they were two players going for a header, they would have bumped shoulders, or one of them would have won the header. But because De Gea's going with his arms up and is off balance, it's obviously going to be easier for Virgil to knock him slightly off balance. So I think that's a little bit harsh. I don't think it was a foul, but not that it made much difference in the end anyway. Torres Zenos has said, is the Premier League the least interesting of the top 5 leagues this year? Not only is Liverpool great, but all the big clubs are struggling and make it kind of boring for the neutrals. Even Liga isn't as bad this year. Wow, throwing some shade on Liga there. Kind of boring for the neutrals. I actually think the Premier League's rather interesting, just away from the title race. Liverpool, it must be great for Liverpool fans. Liverpool is 16 points clear at the moment, playing some fantastic football. It's super interesting for them. The other teams that are falling off, especially the rest of the top 6, it is poor, but there are loads of other teams who are making it interesting. Wolves and Sheffield United pushing for a top 6, maybe even a top 4 spot. That's pretty cool. Leicester comfortably inside the top 4. I think the Premier League is just interesting. It's just that the massive gap between is different. As well as this, I know those of you are going to say, Matt, when Bayern Munich or Barca or Juve are miles ahead, then you call it boring. I do, because those teams win it 9 times out of 10 this decade. If not every single year this decade. Those guys are so far ahead every year. This is the first time Liverpool are going to win it in 30 years. So technically on a one-off, 16 points you could say is quite boring as a title race. But the division as a whole, I think is still pretty interesting. Kareem Abdel-Razak, should we be calling Liverpool champions? Yes, at this point I can't see them slipping up. They could lose a couple of games and still comfortably go through. Top Football One has said, suggest one team that can stop Liverpool. I think it's going to be like last year. The one game away at Manchester City in a few months at the Etihad could be a stumbling block. But apart from that, as I said, even if they lose it, it's not the end of the world. And Monisade said, after that win, we all know the title's wrapped up, so should Jurgen Klopp play a strong team in other competitions like the FA Cup and Champions League, or go for the invincible tag? This is an interesting one, and I actually think the quicker Liverpool lose, the better it will be for their season. You're going to say I'm absolutely nuts. Don't get me wrong, they're going to want to win every game. And going for the Invincibles tag, of not losing the season and the FA Cup and the Champions League would obviously be the goal. It's difficult enough to do a treble without losing one game along the way. So I think if Liverpool were to lose quicker and say, you know what, we might lose. Right, we've lost the Invincibles tag, so we don't need to put so much pressure on the Premier League. They can almost stumble over the line from here on out. They'll win the majority of their games, even with the second string squad, because they are that good as a squad as a whole. So if they lose a game, draw a couple of games, as we mentioned, they're still so far ahead that I'm not sure will impact them too much. And instead of, if it gets to April and they've got a huge game in the Champions League semi-final, and then they've got a home game to a lesser team, let's not put any offence on any teams in the Premier League, a home game to a lesser team, they're not going to prioritise that game against a poorer team just because they want to stay unbeaten. They're definitely going to prioritise the Champions League semi-final. So if they've already lost the game, they don't have to worry about going unbeaten. And probably with less pressure on going unbeaten, it might actually turn out better for them. That's just my opinion, of course. Throw yours down in the comment section below. Moving on though, because Haaland, I'm sure you heard about it, Erling Haaland has moved to Dortmund. His debut for Dortmund, Log Primeton has said, is an incredible debut. That we can all agree on. 21 minutes after coming on as a sub where they were 3-1 down, and it's 5-3 and Haaland has a hat-trick. Sinister Sumo does ask the question, which I think many fans of other rival teams are asking. Are Man U fans going to regret not putting in the loads of money for Haaland? This is a very good question, but I think the answer wasn't a case of money. Dortmund paid, I believe, between 25 and 30 million euros for Haaland. Pretty much any team in the top flight can afford that. Certainly in the big 5. Maybe not any team, but certainly, the ones in the European places can afford 25 odd million for a player. His wages would have been big, but nothing extortionate compared to what the top teams are playing. The point is that Haaland came in and said he wanted to play every possible minute of every game. And Dortmund could offer that. Dortmund, packed Alcacer's bags for him and he's currently still on the transfer list. And they're going to make the money back they paid for Haaland off Alcacer. Manchester United couldn't afford him that. Martial is the competition for places and he's not going to want to sit on the bench the rest of the season. The same with Rashford, even though he's injured. Leipzig were also interested. They've got Poulsen. They've got Timo Werner. Every other team that was super interested would have loved to take Haaland, but just couldn't promise him the minutes. So he chose Dortmund, which is best for his career, so pretty smart from him. Alex the Extremist says, will Haaland be like Paco Alcacer, or will he be a main first-team player? Just spoke. That's exactly what's going to happen. Haaland will be that main guy. As I said, Alcacer is looking to move on. Dortmund are looking to move him on. And barring an injury, Haaland will probably play the rest of the season. Big Dan, this is a good one. This really gets the punters talking. Why is everyone hyping up this Haaland kid? He's just a second-rate Danny Welbeck. I mean, just a few facts. You can find a million facts online on why Haaland is already better than Danny Welbeck and he's 10 years younger. Haaland has more goals in the last 6 months, so this season, than Danny Welbeck has in the last 5 years. Let's just let that sink in. Haaland's 19, Welbeck's 29, and is still injured. It's just a no-brainer. I think overall, in his whole club career, Welbeck has 70 goals in, I think, 11 years of professional football. And 2 or 3 for Haaland, and he has 52. He's only 18 behind him. There is not even a comparison between Haaland and Welbeck. At one time, Welbeck was a good youngster at United, but blimey, that was last decade. Maybe even the decade before that. Anyway, Fabian Radke said, do you think Haaland is as good as German media make him, or does he deserve being called the saviour for Dortmund, who could possibly lead into the Bundesliga title? Saviour probably refers to the weekend, to coming on when they were down and scoring a hat-trick. As I don't think anyone would be sort of daring enough to say he's going to be the saviour and single-handedly take Dortmund to the title. If he does, even as good as he is, I'll be bloody amazed. As good as German media makes him, he's obviously good considering a lot of teams wanted him. You see what he did in the Champions League, what he did in the Austrian Bundesliga. Okay, not one of the best leagues in Europe. But I think it was 28 goals before we moved in both them competitions this first half of this season. I don't care what division you're in. Banging in that many goals, especially in the Champions League as well, against esteemed opponents, is pretty damn good. Right, next up though, Barcelona Quique Setien. Now, loads of you were commenting on today's Daily News. Matt, shut up with your opinions. Matt, watch the game first. I openly admitted I didn't watch the game. This is why I was calling for Barcelona fans' opinions. Is Setien bringing back good football? And although it was only a 1-0 win, was it more the play that pleased you guys? Sean Botelli's asking, do you think Setien will be a success at Barcelona? Bit too early to call. One game, as we mentioned. But, according to Samuel T, Barcelona have gone back to the Barcelona way, and despite only winning 1-0, they won in the correct fashion. This is what it's all going to be about for Barcelona. The main sort of gripe under Valverde was that even if they did win the odd game, it wouldn't be with the right style. So now that Barcelona are playing the right style, things are definitely looking up. As I mentioned before, you guys, Barcelona fans, let me know. Do you think this is the real deal? Do you think maybe it was against a weaker side? Were they playing really good football with the likes of Frenkie de Jong going to flourish under Setien? Of course, there's so much that could happen and could go wrong that maybe is out of his hands as well as a manager. I don't think it's going to be a crazy transfer window from Barca from here on out. I think when it comes to the Champions League and the big games, are Barcelona going to falter again? And if they do, is that the manager's fault, or is it just the squad don't quite have the right players? Yeah, as I mentioned before, I did not watch all of the Barcelona game, so yeah, I guess I'm not in the proposition to be able to judge. I was watching a lot of Premier League stuff. I've got to admit it, guys. Anyway, of course, let me know your opinions on that, on Haaland, United, Liverpool, everything else, and look out every single Sunday night for your chance to leave your big opinion on the weekend's football. Whilst you're at it, let me know your thoughts down below as well. Smash the like button and check around the screen for all the other stuff we've got going on in OneFootball. But until next time, I will see you guys later.